Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Yep. Here we go. Your dial's set correctly to USA Prepares. We're delighted you're in class today. We broadcast 2 hours from Missouri, right from the farm, high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. If you'd like to call us, Brad will take your call. He's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. Thank you very much, Brad. Call-in number, 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. If you'd like to listen 24/7, take us with you as you travel. 605-477-3249. 605-477-3249. Gwyneth Isaacs is with us, live in Australia. Welcome, Gwyneth.
Hello, Vincent. How are you this morning?
I am well. Yeah, I'm all excited. I'm all excited.
Wonderful police state of Australia.
Yeah,
I got my email earlier.
I did.
Oh, boy,
yeah.
Oh, boy, are we in trouble.
Well, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The Victoria Police, I would have said on a previous broadcast, about how there was this spate of carjackings in Melbourne. Now, our listening audience should be aware of something. Usually when the local police generally know the people who live in their area. They know who the criminals are. They know what their rap sheets are. They generally have them pretty well memorized, okay? They know who's doing these carjackings, I'm sure of it. And they will not go around and just arrest them because it's not in their best interest to. Because they have got the next phase of them putting their boots on our neck. And that is that they are going to require GPS tracker RFID chips in every single vehicle, motor vehicle. That is bad, bad, bad news, especially around here. I don't normally read the newspapers. We live too far out to sort of easily get newspaper deliveries. But I read this when I went into town once to go and do my shopping. I normally stop at a cafe and I have some lunch and a coffee. And I read this in the newspaper and I thought, oh no. And then I was saying today, I said, Lord God, what should I talk about on Vincent's show tonight? And it is just this gentle prompting of the Holy Spirit on the inside of me. You haven't talked about the police tracking chips yet. And I went, oh no, I haven't, have I? So I went out and I got the newspaper that I rescued and I read it again and it was still, oh no. Oh my God, we are in deep doo-doo up to our necks because what it is, they're going to require an RFID tracking chip to be hidden in every single motor vehicle as a part of the motor vehicle registration. And if you don't have one of these chips, I can guarantee, or if it's not working, I can guarantee they will assume that the vehicle is stolen, and then you're in trouble. That's how it works. Their playbooks are not hard to read, Vincent.
Yep.
We are in deep, deep trouble because I'll tell you what the police have been doing around here. anytime I go out, if I have my cell phone on me, I can be sure I'm going to be followed by the police when I go into town. They hate me. They absolutely hate me. And, you know...
And they've got it backwards. They're a bunch of... they're a bunch of peeping Toms in uniform. They're in peeping Toms in uniforms. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They absolutely are violent peeping Toms. They're not just peeping Toms, they're rapists. They're violent, you know, from what I've heard. Of course, I've got absolutely no evidence to back up that claim. This is gossip. But that is the gossip among the women who live around here. Okay?
Well, I can tell you that, Guineith, I can tell you that I know a former cop's wife, and she's indicated to me that they're pretty violent, and they're always on the ready, and they're always looking for trouble. And that I asked her about, you know, what percentage of the cops are on the take, and I thought it was going to be a few percent, 5, 10, something like that. No, she told me 90% are on the take, from small things. Small thing. Well, yeah, and it's not just pay for protection. It's things where going into coffee shops and expecting free coffee and donuts, and expecting free lunch and free sandwiches and free meals, and then it extends on to, well, let me bring my wife over for dinner Friday night, and they get free dinners. And then, well, let me bring the whole family over, you know, the children and the wife, and then pretty soon it gets to be an expensive protection racket. For these for the restaurants. Yeah.
And the restaurant
and, you know,
no.
Yeah, and if I had a restaurant, I'd be thinking, man, the last thing I'd want to see is the cops. I mean, it'd be like it'd be like signing up for another insurance policy with an unending premium. You know, that's what it would seem like to me.
Well, what I do know for a fact, okay, is, and this is because I heard it from somebody themselves, okay. I think he's now the former senior sergeant, because the woman complained. The senior sergeant at Wedderburn, okay, punched my friend so hard in the belly that his fist penetrated her abdominal wall and wound up in her abdominal cavity. I think I've told everybody this before. He put her in hospital for a week. And with violent thugs like that around, it's only a matter of time before they kill someone, as far as I'm concerned. And to have tracking vehicles in everybody's car, you know, I don't want to drive now. It would be me putting my neck on the line to get in my car and go down to the supermarket and get shopping. It absolutely would. So the vehicle that was T-boned last year is still off the road. I could fix it in an afternoon. It's only got a broken steering arm, a broken tail light, and a couple of broken panels. That's all that's wrong with it. It's an afternoon's work, you know. But I don't want to, because then I'll be tempted to drive it, and you know, that might end up being a rather unfortunate journey to go to the supermarket and get some shopping.
Well, I've got to agree with you. I don't want to get in my vehicle and travel. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it for a number of reasons. One, the risks of these stupid people who are not paying attention. The people who, I don't know, if they look both ways and they say, I'll tell you what, I'll cut them off anyway. I was on the road yesterday traveling to Springfield, and it seems like either we're importing bad drivers in our neck of the woods even more frequently than we used to, or people are becoming meaner behind the wheel. But what they do is they've got these trailers, and they'll pull out with a trailer as if they've got a race car, and then they go slowly in front of you. It's mean. It's not necessary. Cutting people off is just a dumb idea, and that's what seems to be happening more and more and more. And I'm seeing more and more drivers who are just angry behind the wheel. And I'll tell you what, I heard something that I couldn't believe. I was talking to a few young people, and I was at a cell phone convention. I was just having a meal, and Mrs. Finelli was with me, and I looked around, and every one of these young people, every single one, yeah. I thought I was at a convention, the National Convention for Cell Phones. They're all eating with cell phones on the table, and they're looking down every couple of minutes just to make sure that they didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
Well, one guy was telling me about some of the capabilities of these new cell phones, these new smartphones. Well, one of the capabilities is you can use it as a hotspot, an internet hotspot, while you're traveling. And then, if you have the right app, you can watch TV. You can put your cell phone on your dashboard and watch your favorite Stoopcom. When I say Stoopcom, I mean stoop as in stupid. These idiotic programs where nothing is funny, and it boggles my mind that people would broadcast over television this nonsense. I don't know if it's designed to babysit people or what, but absolute nonsense. And then the innuendo and the deviant nature and the pornographic images that come out of these stoopcoms is just over the top. I can't stand the thought of it. It's you look at Hollywood and you say, wow, what a bunch of perverts, and they're allowed to do this. They're allowed to corrupt young people. They're allowed to let young people think this is normal. It's not normal.
Just one generation ago, that would have been a crime.
Yes. And it's an outrage. So here we've got young people behind the wheel of vehicles watching television. It's bad enough to use the phone to text. Now they're watching TV while they're operating motor vehicles. It's out of control. We'll be right back. Guineith, what you're talking about, these radio frequency identification device chips was really bothering me because we're being tracked everywhere we go. So I was thinking about 1980, and I was in the conference room of a corporation in California, and I found out that our technology that we had developed was rendered useless because we didn't understand how to play the game with the bureau rats in Washington, D.C. We didn't know that you needed to grease the skids in order to get approval from Washington to manufacture certain telecommunications products and deploy them. We didn't know that. So we had the technology. Yeah, that's them. Yeah. So we didn't know that. And so we missed an opportunity to use our latest really cool technology. And I won't really say what it was. So Vinny was stomping around the conference room of our company in California, and he was furious that these guys would do this. So we decided, all right, what can we do? Well, go back to 1980, and we decided that, well, we should probably make radar detectors for vehicles because the cops were deploying these handheld and other radar guns to measure the speed that vehicles were traveling. People were starting to get more and more tickets.
They're not allowed to be blocked either.
Yeah. So, the idea came up. All right, we'll just make a radar detector better than the Escort. That was the Clyde Washburn made the Escort, and it was a really good one. But I thought we could build a better one. So that was the plan for a few seconds, literally a few seconds. And I said, forget it. Forget making a radar detector. Let's just jam it. Let's just jam radar. We'll make a radar transmitter. We'll put it behind the grill, and we'll put all 8s on the display of the radar guns and the radar detection, devices to detect speed. So when they try to detect our speed, it would read all eights. Error. And we thought about that for a while. We thought, yeah, we can do that. Actually, it'd probably be a little easier than building a radar detector. And then we decided that, you know what, we'll just forget it. We're just going to give up and we'll not do that because it would be illegal to do that. So we did not do it. But for a few minutes, we thought, you know what, wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't it be fun to, because we could do it.
But you see,
we could easily build.
That's fully within FCC rules.
Yeah, because the devices have to accept.
But
devices have to accept signals.
They only keep to the rules when it suits them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I'm looking at. So the first thing I did during the commercial break that we just had was RFID jammer. I figured, okay, well, maybe someone already built one. We won't have to do that. And and there are plenty of articles about how to block RFID tags. So class, if you want to look it up, just type in RFID space jammer, JAMMER, and you'll find articles about how they work and how they can be jammed. So I'm not recommending it specifically at this point. I'm just saying if you would like to be entertained by reading about this technology, you can. And there's plenty of articles on the internet about how to do it. But these guys just don't give up. They're trying to invade every... Yeah. Well, here too. Here too.
Around here, if you probably pull you over for jamming their transmission, they would. If you pull you over for jamming their speed camera, and they would regard that probably as being probable cause. Yeah. But there's no probable cause for them invading us. Gosh. There's no probable cause for them landing in hospital for a week and then charging her with assault.
Well, I'll tell you what. When we come back, I'll tell you about 3 wonderful people in uniform. Actually, there were 7 of them. And they tased this guy. Class Guineith is with us. She's live in Australia. And, okay, I'd like you to remember this. Listen very carefully. I'm going to count to 5, and I want you to think about this. Then I'm going to tell you why. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, think about the time that it took for me to count to 5. The reason I'm mentioning that is I want you to think next about getting an electric shock. Let's say you're working on an outlet and you get a shock. Immediately you pull away, you withdraw from that electrocution that you just got, right? All right. Have you ever been shocked by a spark plug or a spark plug wire under the hood, when the engine's running? That's about 25,000 volts. I have. Now, let's go back to what I said about counting to 5. All right? Well, there's a young man, 18 years old, and this young man was tied to a chair in a police station. He was actually at the Cheatham County Jail in Tennessee. He was 18 at the time. He was tied down, and I'm going to read you this article, and it talks about 3 Tennessee deputies were suspended for tasing this guy 40 times. And you can listen to the audio of these tasings that last about 5 seconds each. This guy claims that he has 40 burn marks from this taser. Let me read this article, dailymail.co.uk. Quote, "I'll keep on doing that until I run out of batteries." 3 Tennessee deputies are suspended after horrifying footage emerges of them repeatedly using a taser on a boy 18 while he was tied to a chair. Jordan Elias Norris, now 19, has filed an excessive force lawsuit after his arrest for drugs and weapons offenses last November. The teen says he was reportedly tasered while he was restrained by deputies at Cheatham County Jail. Shocking footage appears to show one of the officers repeatedly using a taser on Norris while he was bound to a chair. "I'll keep on doing that until I run out of batteries," the officers heard telling Norris in jail surveillance footage. Norris claims he suffered more than 40 pairs of taser burns while in custody. Three Cheatham County, I guess, deputies are on administrative leave, and the sheriff has contacted the district attorney to request an independent investigation. So I saw the video.
They got a paid holiday.
Paid holiday. You're absolutely right. These guys are in this jail, and the only witnesses are a couple guys who are also behind bars, okay? There are 7 of these uniformed paid thugs, okay? I'm talking about the police department. They're uniformed. They've got the symbol of a badge on their either embroidered or silkscreened on their shirts. They've got this guy literally bound to a chair. One of them is behind this teenage man. They've got something in his mouth, I guess, to prevent him from choking or biting his tongue while they tase him. Literally think of it like a white handkerchief.
Screaming?
Probably, so he wouldn't be screaming, yeah. Literally, this guy is bound to a chair, and another one of these cops has got a taser right to his heart. Literally, right to his heart. There's no mistaking where this taser is. And they are tasing and tasing and tasing and tasing. And then they've got this woman there. I don't know what her role is. She's there kind of trying to do something. I'm not sure what she's doing. Then they've got this guy in body armor. There's 7 of these thugs. And they are torturing this guy in Tennessee in the United States of America. Now, and I've been thinking about this. I've been saving this article to talk with it on the air with you. Because I know that you would have the same outrage that I have. But here are these employees of this jail in Tennessee, and none of them is saying, "Whoa, what? Hold it. We can't do this. This is illegal. This is torture. This is against the Constitution. This is against our oath of office. We can't do this, guys." No one's doing that. They're all guilty of this crime of abusing and beating this man. Now, I don't care what they allege his crime was, whether it be weapons,
that's cruel and
whether it be drugs.
Punishment.
Right. And they have literally tased this guy. It is so hard to watch this. It's abuse at the highest order. And now, so what do you do in a case like this? Well, what you do, in my opinion, is you arrest every one of these people involved, every single one who was in the room at the same time. Whether they were typing, answering the phone, doesn't matter, because they didn't stop it. No one stopped it. Every single person gets arrested, okay, and tried. For what are they? They are domestic terrorists. That's what they are. These people are domestic terrorists. And they need to be arrested, tried, and convicted. Now, that's step number 1. Step number 2, the corporate charter for the county needs to be revoked. The corporate charter for the county needs to be revoked so that they disband the entire county of Cheatham, Tennessee. The mayor needs to be fired. Okay? Now, and all of these people need to be on a
order.
Right. Now, we need to have, we have the sex offenders, okay? That's what the government has, this database of sex offenders. We need to have a database of domestic terrorists. And these people need to be on the list of domestic terrorists. So when they go to get a job, after they've been fired from this position, that's after they've served their jail time, if they ever get out, that when they go to get a job, the employer says, well, let me check the database of domestic terrorists. I see you're on there. We can't hire you. We need to show these people. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, Guineith, I know you have had no time to think about this, and I've had a couple days to think about it. This is bothering me so much. I think there needs to be some answer that is really swift and really strong to let these domestic terrorists in uniform know that this is absolutely not acceptable. Now, maybe there will be some justice carried out, outside the system. I don't know. I'm not suggesting it. I'm just wondering if that would happen. Do the families of this young man say, "Wait a minute, this is out of control"? Does the father, who may be of service age, say, "You know what? This is unacceptable. We didn't do this stuff to our enemies. We're certainly not going to do it to people who live in the United States, who are, we'll call them citizens. We're not going to do that. We're not going to allow that." The thing that the police are most afraid of, number one, they are most afraid of going to prison. Why is that? Guineith, why do you think cops are afraid of going to prison?
Well, because they put all the people who are there.
Yeah.
That's an easy one. Everybody who's there is there because they've had negative interactions with the police. And many of them, not all of them, there are some violent thugs there too, okay? But many of them are were people who were just minding their business, living their lives, and then this group of thugs came and would not leave them alone until they, out of desperation, struck out at the group of violent thugs, which gave the violent thugs a good reason to incarcerate them. That's how it works. That's the playbook. Yep. And they tried to use it on me, and I didn't play ball because I've never, ever reacted violently to them. The most violent thing I've said is, "Get off my effing land." That's the most violent I've ever gotten with them. I did use the F word on them that I can remember, I think. But that's as violent as it ever got. And I think, considering that there were, 5 or 6 cops, and they pulled up in 3 cars and just trooped onto my land, I think that my reaction was extremely restrained. I felt in desperate fear for my own safety on that day.
I wonder how that's. I wonder how that's going to work.
My response to fear is courage.
I wonder how it's going to work when people start using that same defense. I was in fear for my life. These 3 guys showed up. They all had guns. They all had their guns drawn, and so the only thing that was left was for me to shoot them. Okay, that was the only thing left because they had their guns drawn. I was in fear for my life
all the time, left and right. I didn't have a gun. I don't own a firearm. I have other projectile firing devices that are, people are allowed to have certain other projectile firing devices around here, but I don't have firearms. But you know what? I did fear for my life. And they got me to sign a document under fear and duress, which is slavery. And, it's, so they put me under a bond. That is that they made me a slave under force of arms. And it was overwhelming force, and it was just disgusting. And I did absolutely fear for my life. I feared what they were going to do for me if I didn't sign that document, so I signed the document. I think I would have ended up like Mike Parsons if I hadn't signed the document.
Guineith Isaacs is with us, and I'll read you a little bit more of this story when we come back. It's about as upsetting as can be what the police did to this 18-year-old man in Tennessee. Guineith and I are talking about the police state. We're talking about the abusive police state. We're talking about who are you going to call? There's no one to call. Now, this poor man was in a jail in Cheatham County, Tennessee, and everyone was in on the act. Everyone that was videoed by their surveillance camera that they have in this jail was part of the crime of torturing this 18-year-old young man. And so let me continue. This is dailymail.co.uk. Quote, "I'll keep on doing that until I run out of batteries," unquote, the officers heard telling Norris. Norris is the man who was tased, in the jail surveillance footage. So this is their own footage. This isn't someone editing it and changing it. This is jail surveillance footage. The surveillance also shows the deputy telling him to stop resisting while stunning Norris, who automatically tenses in pain. The deputy went on to stun Norris 4 times, totaling approximately 50 seconds on his stomach and legs, according to the suit obtained by the Tennessean. The suit adds that the deputy involved acted in a sadistic and malicious nature in repeatedly tasing plaintiff Norris, such that the force was unreasonable. 3 Cheatham County Sheriff's deputies, the one using the taser and 2 who stood by and failed to act, have now been placed on administrative leave. None has been named. Let me say that again. None has been named.
That's absolutely disgusting. All I can say is whoever retrieved the security camera footage deserves a medal.
Absolutely. And then the sheriff says...
do.
The sheriff says, as sheriff, I want citizens to know that any inappropriate behavior that may have violated an individual's rights will not be tolerated, he says. I've placed the employees involved on administrative leave while the investigation is conducted. We will work closely and cooperate with the TBI. I guess that would be Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and the District Attorney's Office to ensure all facts are provided and all angles of this incident are thoroughly investigated. Now,
you know what
says Norris was...
They'll get 6 months holiday, and then they'll be back in the ranks. Maybe they'll get a promotion.
Norris is the man who was tased, was arrested November 3rd, 2016, for felony manufacturing/possession of marijuana for resale, possession of drug paraphernalia, theft under $500, and 5 counts of possession of a prohibited weapon, vandalism of over $1,000, and simple assault. He was in jail for almost 2 weeks before he was bonded out on November 16. When he was arrested, he had around 40 pairs of taser burns throughout his body. I'm sorry, when he was released, he had around 40 pairs of taser burns throughout his body, according to the suit. So here's this guy, and so what's involved? Marijuana. Now, in some states, marijuana is absolutely legal. I mean, if the government gets their take, right? If they're able to tax it and make a profit on it. So in some places, it's legal. And think about this, class. I don't use drugs. I don't advocate the use of drugs. But I'm of the mindset if someone wants to use drugs, as long as it doesn't bother me, as long as they're not funding their habit through theft or dishonesty, if they want to go into a stupor in their own homes and not be behind the wheel and put others at risk, I don't care. I really don't.
I would tend to agree with you.
Okay, but
Hot smokers generally don't cause the problem.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's how I see it. But the problem is that we had prohibition. Now, the day before prohibition, which was to prohibit the consumption of alcohol and sale of alcohol, it was legal. The day of prohibition, it was illegal. When prohibition was repealed by the government, it was then again legal. So here we have something that's legal, illegal, legal. Okay, they can't make up their minds. They can't make up their minds. And then they arrest people. So, class, stay away from drugs, because the cops will use drugs to really mess up your lives. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Guineith Ice is with us live in Australia. We've been talking about these Tennessee cops that 7 employees that I saw on the video, I believe they're all employees, were involved in the torture of Jordan Elias Norris, an 18-year-old man that they arrested. They had him in the Cheatham County Jail, and they strapped him to a chair, and one of these thugs on the payroll. He's wearing a cop uniform. Is holding his head back. He's got this thing around his face, and looks like he's keeping him from screaming or keeping him from choking. While another one of these thug cops has got a taser right against his chest. I'm not talking about near his chest. I'm talking about right against his chest, right on his heart, right where his heart is. And then you hear the tasing sound, and all these guys are standing around, and they're enjoying just torturing this man. This is the kind of sick people that are being paid to wear guns and to carry tasers, and we're paying these people to pull us over and to keep us all safe. And while they live these lives of torturers, domestic terrorists, I would call them. That'd be my name for them, domestic terrorists. And you know, we've had people who wanted to come visit us from the East Coast, and we ask them, well, how are you going to be traveling? What roads are you going to be taking? And sometimes they say that they're going to travel through Tennessee, and we go, don't do it. Don't go through Tennessee. Don't think about going through Tennessee. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. And I'll post this video. I'll put a link of this video that we're talking about in this story from the Daily Mail on USA Prepares. I'm not posting a lot of articles lately. I just flat out don't have the time. But this one is so outrageous and so important that I think it warrants taking a look at. And you will see that what these people, I guess I just call them thugs, uniformed thugs, unconvicted criminals that wear badges in Tennessee are doing to we the villagers. It's an absolute outrage. And I hope that justice is meted out to these thugs. I hope they get a chance to spend time in prison and they get to meet some of the people who they've befriended.
They put there?
Yeah. I hope they get a chance to play in the yard, play in the sandbox with some of the people that they put there. And I guess it will show them a little bit of what it's like on the other end. You know, so does it really take 7 of these thugs to beat this guy and tie him to a chair? And once he's tied to a chair, there's still 7 of them? It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. David in Illinois, welcome. You're on with Guineith Isaacs and me.
Yeah, how you doing? Whenever my dad, when I was with him, whenever they said somebody did something wrong, like the cops, all they would have to do is resign beforehand. Then they could just go clean to another department. Mm-hmm. So nothing will probably happen to them. Now, you brought up about what do you do, protect your house if they were to come into your home? I brought that question up to him because if I didn't check in with him on a regular basis, he would say he would have a no-knock raid done on me. And I'm a gun owner. And he said, if you do anything or try to fight back, it doesn't matter. You're going to wind up dead. There's more of us than there are of you. Even, and I said, well, what would you come into my house for? He said, doesn't matter. We'll make up a reason. So, you know,
that's about
you're saying that your dad was a cop, and he told you that he would do a no-knock raid on your house, and he was coming in, and with his thug friends, and they would start shooting. Is that what you're saying?
He said if I tried to do anything back, and because I'm a gun owner, I told him, I said, well, if they don't identify themselves, I want to protect whoever comes into my house. And he said, you're going to wind up dead. And I said, what for? I've never done nothing wrong or anything. He said, we'll make up a reason. Doesn't matter. You know.
You're saying this firsthand. You're saying that
yes. Oh,
you've heard your dad, who was a cop, say this to you, his son.
Right, and I got him to say it on the phone. So with the government tracking the phones all the time, all they could do is look back on the phone. On the phone. So, but because I knew so much about what he covered up when he was a cop, because I had to stay with him from 7 to 19 in the car, and so then he kept track of me throughout my whole life. So, but I have one good for you. May like this one. Up there in the harbor up by Lake Michigan, during salmon season, I would have him drop me off and fish until he got off 12:31 in the morning. Then he'd pick me up, instead of driving in the car with him all the time. And one day, they came out with the stamps to go on your fishing license, the way to make more money. So you had to have a stamp for every stupid different fish you caught. Well, they would harass the people, the game warden, and these people didn't have much money. So they actually threw the guy in the lake. The game warden in the lake.
They threw the game warden in the lake?
Yes, because they weren't carrying weapons then, and I was too young to have a fishing license, but I would stay there till about 1 in the morning by myself until he picked me up. But they were harassing this old lady. She sat there every day to try to catch a salmon, and he started hassling them all because they came out with the salmon stamps and then the trout stamps and everything. So he was trying to give them all citations, and they threw him in the lake.
So what is your overall reaction to the police? Do you think that they're generally good? Do you think they're generally bad? Do you think they're like half good, half bad? What do you think?
I met one good, honest cop all my years that I met and I knew. But whenever I would try to talk to him about what I had to deal with, or whenever they would ask why I'm there with him all the time, or I would, be there, he would take this, I don't want to get involved attitude. Mm-hmm. Whenever I'd always be bandaged up or get out of the hospital from his rages, they knew, but they wouldn't say nothing. And he would tell me as long as he carried that badge, he can get away with anything.
You're talking about your dad?
Yeah.
Your dad would tell you that as long as he had a badge, he could get away with anything.
Oh, yeah.
Does that include
that's one thing.
Does that include murder?
All I know is about a shooting, and I'm not going to get into details, but it was by one of his friends, and like I said, it was ruled an accidental, but it was point blank while the guy was intoxicated, and it was shot twice by a .45, and it was ruled an accidental. But it was something that they were really worried about because they knew it wasn't an accident.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that that if a cop were arrested and put into prison, that he should be justifiably worried about going to prison?
Yeah, that's why they have a different set of rules for that. You won't see them getting into the normal public area in prison.
Mm-hmm. Where did they go?
They go into solitary, don't they?
It's not really a solitary. He always told me it was a separate. It was a lot easier. It was a separate area.
But
so they didn't do this.
They'd have the same kitchen.
Yeah, I don't know if they'd have the same kitchen. That stuff. And I know the prisoners actually eat a lot better than even disabled kids eat in state school. I mean, I knew somebody that went to work at one of the state prisons here in Illinois, and they were feeding them steak. So, so it's a little, a little different on that situation for that stuff. It's
David,
changed so much. Yeah.
What percentage of the police would you say are corrupt at some level? When I say corrupt at some level, I'm talking about shaking down stores for protection. I'm talking about expecting free food from convenience stores, gas stations, restaurants. I'm talking about shopping without paying for things. I'm talking about being bribed. If you add that all together, okay, and you spread that out among the cops, what percentage of the cops do you think are on the take at some level, or are involved in stealing drugs from people that they arrest or pull over, and then selling those drugs or using those drugs as ways of extorting from other people? Put all that together. What percentage of the cops are bad?
Well, I got to meet with a lot of people from the city when I would be up there, and what they had to deal with was majority of them would do something that wasn't right to them. So it's a large percent, very large. So
when this wife of a cop told me that 90%, not 90,
yeah, you're in that, yeah.
Is that a realistic number?
Yes. And it doesn't surprise me that the wife of a cop told you that, because almost every one of his friends that I knew of all were married and divorced several times, because the wives cannot take that type of situation. And I don't blame them. I mean, my father alone beat 3 of his wives where they left.
Mm-hmm.
And
would you? All right. Would you say that some of the wives of some of the cops live in fear for their own lives being married to these cops?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. That because when the wife wasn't there, he himself would go into violent rages where he would have serious destruction of property. And when they would show up to get him, they would just take him into the hospital for a week or two, leave me to fend for myself as a kid, and I would have to clean. And then they would just let him back out, give him his gun back. There's hardly no recourse for them.
Can I say, around here it's about 100%. I don't know of any good cops around here. And I'd like to go into that more when we get back, if that's okay.
David, would you hold on with us?
Sure.
Okay, great. David in Illinois is with us. Guineith Isaacs is in Australia. I'm Vin Finelli. We'll be right back. Guineith, you had some comments to make as we're going into the break?
Yeah. Around here, it's 100% of the cops are bent. Okay? The guy who used to be in charge of the Wedderburn police station was a fellow by the name of Brad Hyatt. When he was in high school, he was the school bully, okay? Because I used to have a friend, my friend's son went to school with him, and that's my source on that information. And he used to be the school bully. He grew up, and he went to police academy and became a police officer, and basically worked himself to the top of the force by being as violent as he could possibly be. To the point where when they needed to bring the local motorcycle club into line, they would pull in Brad Hyatt, okay? Now, I think that he's made some enemies over at our friendly neighbourhood motorcycle club. I've never met the people from the motorcycle club, but I don't think that's a particularly wise idea to go making enemies with the local branch of the local motorcycle club. And I think that he needs to sit down and have a think about his karma, okay? Like I said, none of my business. I've never even met the motorcycle club people. But he needs to really sit and think what he's doing, okay? Because I'm just saying this as somebody whose husband was into, he was a missionary. He lived next to a motorcycle club, my husband, a different motorcycle club. My husband opened his mission, and he opened it right next door to the Hells Angels, okay? He didn't know that he was next to the Hells Angels until the day after he moved in. I don't associate with that world at all. It's too much trouble for me. I've got my own life to live, okay? But I don't think these cops recognize the enemies that they're making when they make them. I really don't.
And when you talk about karma, are you talking about if they end up in the same jail or the same prison, that they're going to find out what karma's about? Karma's very creative in how it operates. I work as a telephone psychic, and I see karma operating day in and day out. Okay? I'm not talking about any human retribution here. I'm talking about God or universe or whatever you want to say, making sure that people get their just deserves. And, when you begin to see that and you recognize the patterns, it makes you a lot more relaxed about when bad things happen to you because you know that it can't continue, It might continue for a while, but then something happens, and it's justice. It's universal justice. It's not any human operating, bringing it to pass. It's just, I don't know, that there is an intelligent
power behind the whole universe, and he sees everything that goes on, and he knows everything that goes on, and he especially gets upset when people like widows and orphans, when people want to harm them. And you know who? It's Jesus Christ, God in heaven. He is real. He looks after me. Okay? And if anyone ever comes up against me, they'll be coming up against God, because I love God and I pray all the time. And when you get somebody who's a praying person, I believe that God pays attention to them, and he makes extra special care to look after them, and also the people that they love and the people that they pray for as well.
David, when we come back, would you tell us a little bit more about the police and what you think they're up to, and why? Why are they like this? What happened to them? Were they born this way? Are they genetically predisposed to? We've talked about cops on this program many times, and Guineith said that they're the bullies in school, that we've grown up with in school, and now they are the guys that are armed with guns and badges. My question is, are they predisposed to doing this, to beating us up? What makes them like this? Do you know? Do you have a feel for this?
Yeah, I do, actually. And I had these conversations many times, arguments with my dad. I think a large bulk of the police we have now are from conflict zones. There are a lot of the soldiers that come back. And how I can argue this point is when you hear them on the news or talking to people, we are civilian or citizens. I mean, they call us the civilians of the pop. They don't call us citizens. You know what I mean? The way they talk about us, it's almost like they're taking the same training right over there in the conflict zone and bringing that right here, right away. And the other part is the training. I was able to sit into some of the training when I was little, but then he would talk about me of all the updated training. I mean, people don't realize that weapon, when they have it, they're not allowed to have the safety on. It has to be off, ready to go. And he would tell me, once that's pulled, you better do exactly what he says and hope for the best, Because they're not allowed to shoot to maim or warn. They're told when they pull it, you're to be down. And if you're in a certain amount of feet of them, even if you're unarmed, they're allowed to take you down, period. In the foot range, it was like 20 to 25 feet. So it's a pretty good distance,
So you're saying if a person is within 25 feet, let's say at 20 feet from a cop, they're told that if a person advances toward them, they are to kill him?
If they use that weapon, they're to kill them. They're to take them out, period.
And if they run away, they're fleeing from the police. So what are you meant to do?
Well, that's right. Then they're back in that. All they got to do is say they fear for themselves, and that's all they need.
How would that, David in Illinois, how would that work if we said, I saw this guy with a gun. I don't know if he's a cop. He's got a uniform on. It's a black uniform. I remember they used to wear tan. Deputies used to wear tan. I don't know. Looks like military to me. He's got a gun. He's got all kinds of devices. I was afraid of being killed. So when I saw him with his weapon in his hand, I shot him. How would that work?
If we're the public, I don't think it's going to work out good for us. I don't think.
David,
and I'll tell you how blatant they are, real quick. I used to frequent a gun store a lot, and I knew the owner. And there was an officer. He didn't even waste the time to get out of his car or his uniform, and he took in 3 handguns that he confiscated off those 2 and sold them and put the cash in his pocket. So I never did business with that gentleman again at his store.
You're saying a couple things here. Number one, the cop is selling stolen property. Number one, that's what you're saying. Number two, you're saying the gun store owner was buying stolen property.
Yes,
is that correct?
We had an argue about it at work the next day, and He said they bring them into me all the time. Now, 2 of the weapons had to be at least legal because they were in cases. And the guy still had his permit for the one weapon. It was really nice. I'd have loved to have had it myself. But I was not purchasing something out of my own and to encourage that type of behavior. So I never bought from him again. You know.
I was at a gun show in another state, not Missouri, and there was a guy selling a handgun that I was specifically interested in, and it was because of the trigger and the caliber. So I went up to this guy and I said, "Are you selling that?" And obviously he was, because it was in a case. He was walking around the gun show with it. He was a middle-aged guy, neatly dressed. I mean, he didn't look sloppy. He looked, blue jeans and a nice shirt. He didn't look sloppy. And I asked him if he was selling it, and he said yes. And we talked about it for a while. And he told me he was selling it for a friend, which is not legal, okay? Well, I guess maybe it is legal to sell it for a friend. You can't buy it for a friend. And so he was telling me he was selling it for a friend. It was not his. And he was a cop.
Wow.
And so I said, thanks very much. And I passed. I didn't want to get involved at all in transacting.
He could be saying absolutely anything.
Right.
And here's another thing. The police are not averse to giving gun store owners a bad time around here in Australia either. And in Western Australia as well. That's the same thing. They give the gun shop owners, and even I've heard, okay, once again, this is hearsay, all right, but I have heard that they're even giving people who have shops and they're selling archery equipment a bad time.
Mm-hmm.
And
then you have the tax,
pretty low.
Then you have the taxation people who are giving everybody a hard time.
It's getting really hard to buy archery equipment, which is totally legal. Not even any license required at all.
I'm going to ask our engineer to do something that we haven't done in quite a while. I'm going to ask our engineer to keep David on the line and add George in New Hampshire to the call. So here's what we're going to do. David, you're there. Guineith, you're there. I'm here. Yep. And we've now added George. Here. So we've got George. Hey, thank you so much. So we're all going to have to be really careful that we step on each other. George, you're on.
Okay.
Thanks for calling in, George. USA Preparedness Instructor George in New Hampshire.
Hi, Guineith, and hello to David. I just wanted to say, do you notice if you have a large stone and you want to break it up, it might be easier. So, you break it up into pieces. So they allows a lot of bad apples to get into law enforcement. Maybe some of them are very, the people who apply, maybe they have ulterior motives because maybe they look upon a badge as a license to steal, or they can basically take an authoritarian stance over people that otherwise would just basically walk right by them in normal life. And then if you cross over, now that's law. Now if you cross over to religion, look at how many pedophiles and perverts ended up being waved on through and gave a bad name to the majority of the ones who were basically trying to just, minister to the church people. So now it's suspect to the point where it's like, and I know, if you're buying a set of tires and there's defects and there's recalls and there's all kinds of problems, you're going to look at it after a while. You're going to be rather trepidatious to do business. And I think it's just another further way to basically just isolate us and set us against each other, divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the problem is that we're looking at police with a jaundiced eye. We're looking at them as, there's so many bad ones, this one's got to be bad too. And that's the way we're looking at them. It's been a long time since a cop has let me know that I've had a taillight out, and it'd be a good thing for me to fix it. I can't imagine that happening today. I can't imagine them being proactive to helping the villagers. I can't imagine them unlocking a car with the jimmy that they carry in the trunk to open, a locked car for someone. They don't do that anymore. They don't help people anymore that I know of. What they do is they're in the business of revenue to buy new uniforms, new batteries for the tasers, new taser cartridges, new cartridges for the shooting range and to shoot at us, and new everything. As a matter of fact, they've got better everything than we do. You just look at the parking lot at the police station. All new vehicles. How did that ever happen? How did they get all new vehicles? I'm not driving a new vehicle. How do they do it? But they are. Yeah, they confiscate.
You know what? Go ahead.
Sorry, like when they started seizing all this forfeiture, when he transferred to the federal police, they had a different policy. And he seized so much property from people, they had to actually expand the area that they had. And they didn't even want to charge the case. They would shop around to other departments to see if they wanted to try to see if they can get a conviction on a crime, but they were keeping the property.
Let me see if I've got this right. Are you saying that the police would seize and steal the property, turn it over to their department, and then they would look for other, what would you call them, district attorneys to departments to try the case to see if they could get more convictions? Is that what we're saying?
To see if they can get the arrest, period. They didn't even want the arrest. Like if it wasn't big enough or they didn't want to bother with it, but they wanted that property. So they would call around and see if there was another department that wanted to even try the case.
Wow. So we're actually talking about they are highway robbers. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, me and him spin around, and unfortunately, I had to sit there and listen to him call me up and argue with me about this stuff. And the only time he didn't is when I actually shut my phone off so he would not call me and argue me about this nonsense. It's disturbing.
David in Illinois, do you know anyone else that would be in a similar situation as you, who has the same experiences and the same stories as you, as a son of a cop?
Actually, I don't know too many. I knew some. I knew one other family, but they didn't talk about what their family was a little bit. They didn't do exactly what my dad did with me. And for people that say that I'm not saying what I'm saying, I even was able to turn in the guns and the bullets and everything when they shift changed. So I can tell you how they were stored.
All right, let's do that. And also, if you don't mind sharing with us some of the big heists that you know. We'll take turns. So I've got two questions, and then George, then David, then Guineith. What happened to the guns and cartridges that were stolen, David?
Oh, like I told you, the one time I've seen the gun stolen, but I meant to prove that I was there if somebody tried to say I wasn't. During shift changes, I would sit there and they would hand in their weapons, because they weren't allowed to take. Some of them didn't take them home, so they would let me take and turn in their weapons, and I slid them in the drawer, locked them up, and then I put the cartridges in They had a wooden box on the counter, and I would always be afraid since I was so young at the time, when I started, that they would go off accidentally because I wasn't familiar with. And they were like, "No, just throw them in there." All right.
Next question. Have you seen any, or do you know of any firsthand knowledge of any big heists that the cops were involved in?
Yeah, he himself showed me pictures. I wasn't there at the time because the small marijuanas, which were like a brick size. Some of them he actually took home. That I've seen. But the one, he arrested big heists of cocaine, and they were in tires. They had it all laid out. He had a whole 8x11 photograph, and they took an air shot of it. And they were in tires. They were in the seats.
What'd they do? What'd they do with that material?
The cocaine stuff, he would take that, and he told me they would destroy it, do whatever. He wasn't really forthcoming with what happened to that with me.
Okay. George, you're on.
I'll just say this. I remember when there was a drugstore that was broken into. It was one of these chain drugstores. And the thief got in from a rear entrance. Somebody called, but this was in the days when these places were closed on Sundays. Well, they didn't realize a new security camera system had been put into place out front. So the next thing you know, there was 1 or 2 cruisers. Then a police officer who was off duty, he showed up in a civilian car. Another cruiser pulled up, and they proceeded to load up cases of toothpaste, cases of laundry detergent into the various trunks of the various cars, with the exception of one older police officer who didn't touch any of it in his cruiser. He didn't partake, but he just stood by. Now, when they found out and they were caught on camera, I'm just saying now, this is just penny ante in comparison to maybe some of the things they did, because how many times did they go to a drug bust? $17,000 on a table. And I know of a case where, let's just say, it wasn't on the table a few minutes, a matter of minutes later.
Okay. David, you're on. What would you like to say in the remaining minute we have? And then Guineith.
Well, it's just really hard to grow up as a child to see this type of stuff. And in a lot of these crimes that I've seen, and some of them were serious. One of them even was a serial killer that I was involved with. And that guy went on to kill for 1.5 years just because he wouldn't let me and my friend make a statement. So those things haunt me. And to see the homicide pictures that I was forced to look at all the time on the table or in his car. And then the people that are supposed to watch you and help and protect you with that badge, to see them get away, and you're looking at it. It bothers me to this day.
Mm-hmm. Guineith?
Okay, in closing, I'd just like to reiterate these people are evil, okay? And for them to know where you are at all times via an RFID chip in your vehicle is bad, 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 bad news. It absolutely is. Words fail me. This is being, trialed here, but eventually it's going to be rolled out all over the world, because you generally find these globalists, they trial what they're going to do in New Zealand or in Australia because they think no one lives here, no one cares what happens here. Well, I'm blowing the whistle on them this evening. They're going to get every motor vehicle in the world RFID chipped, and these evil people are going to know where you and I and everybody else is all the time. That's bad news.
Good on you, mate. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
It's really frightening. And England and Australia are microcosms of the United States. So, class, if you don't think it's coming here, it's coming here. George, thank you so much for calling in. David, thank you so much for calling in. Guineith, thank you so much for being with us every Tuesday. Above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.